Right, that number's sitting pretty steady now, about 210 mark. That's incredible. So,
Good.
shall I get started and give us a quick introduction?
Mhm.
Awesome. So, my name's Callum, and welcome to our webinar on Moodle 3.9, Everything You Need to Know. So, I have the honour of giving you a quick introduction to myself and to Titus, and then I'll pass you over to my colleague Marcus, who will be giving you the presentation for today. So, first of all, who are we? Well, I work in the marketing department for certified premium Moodle partner Titus. We've been a Moodle partner now for coming on about 6 years, I believe, this September, and we've been a premium Moodle partner for 1 year. So as a company, we provide a full range of Moodle and Moodle workplace services, such as standalones like the MEC, Moodle training, some theme work, etc. But most importantly, what we do is provide a fully managed platform solution, be that Moodle or be that Moodle workplace. So we've done this for a wide range of education and workplace organisations in over 30 countries worldwide. I think at the last count, we was on about 33. And this includes names like Network Rail, who are the owner and infrastructure manager of the UK railway network, the Royal College of Surgeons, and the University of London. If you have any questions, just pop them through on the chat, and then at the end of the webinar, I'll present them to Marcus and he can help answer them. Or if you have any general questions about Titus, what we do, or interested in speaking about our services, there'll be some contact details at the end, or you can just pop me an email. And last but not least, there will be a questionnaire that comes up at the end. So once I end this recording and it shuts down, a form should appear on your browser. And it'll just be a few questions about how you found this webinar, if you'd like to find out a little bit more about some of our services, if you'd like to know about other webinars we do. So if you could please fill that out, we'd be really appreciative. So that's it from me. Without further ado, let's get started. Marcus, over to you.
Thank you very much, Callum. My name is Marcus Green, and I'm a senior developer for Titus, and Titus are certified premium Moodle partners. And the thing I'm talking about today is the latest version of Moodle, which is Moodle 3.9 LTS. And the LTS stands for long-term support, which means, as the name implies, it'll be supported for longer than the interim releases until another LTS version comes out. Now, I'm calling this the Activity Picker release because the changes to the Activity Picker is something that most teachers will all notice. But in fact, this release covers an awful lot of different things in a lot of different areas. And I could have picked a different name for it. Okay, so attempts to move the first slide. So who am I? Why am I the person doing this presentation? So I've been a Moodle user since 2003. Moodle has existed as a product since around about 2001. And I've been involved in online learning technologies since the mid-late 1990s. I'm the creator of the gap fill and word select question types. Those are third-party add-on question types, which I strongly recommend. And my focus of interest is quiz and quizzing, when there's not a lot of changes to those areas in this release of Moodle. And before I was a developer, or actually in the midst of my career, I'm a qualified teacher, became a qualified teacher, and I've got 12 years of experience, mainly in the further education sector, which in the UK is between the ages of 16 to 19. It's the post-compulsory area. So I wear two hats, as a technologist, as a developer, and also with a background in teaching. So I'm talking about this latest release of Moodle and what this upgrade can offer for you. But just to step back a little bit, I'll answer that question: why would you want to upgrade your Moodle? Maybe you're very happy with it. The headline reason for doing any kind of upgrade is to get new and exciting features. But with Moodle, certainly this latest one, there's also increased performance. So I emphasize that because sometimes when a new product comes out, the burden of the new features results in a low performance. But this Moodle offers, and I'll show you a bit about it later on, quite a lot of performance enhancements. And the other really a good reason is security updates. All software has security issues. Moodle has a great record of addressing them. And the other reason, I haven't put that as a bullet point, but the longer you leave it between updates, sometimes the more awkward it can be to do those updates. So I'd strongly recommend trying to keep your version of Moodle up to date as you possibly can, which raises the question about, how do you upgrade? And I feel like I can speak with some authority on this because before I worked for Titus, I worked for a small UK university here in York. I'm in York here at the moment, old York, not New York. And over the space of about 3 years, we upgraded our Moodle approximately every year. And it can be a long and involved process. Having said that, if you give me an installation of Moodle and ask me to upgrade it to the next version of Moodle, I can do that really, really easy. I mean, I am talking 10 minutes, but you don't run Moodle. Almost all Moodle sites will use some plugins, and that's the great beauty of it. Rather than having to rely on just the core product, there's a whole massive ecosystem of plugins. But you need to check that those plugins are compatible and will work as you expect with the latest version of Moodle, and you need to test. And also, there's the issue of making sure you've got the security updates to those plugins. And the reason I say that is that it used to occupy a big chunk of, a week or two each year doing upgrades. And that's a service that we here at Titus offer, is to, manage your Moodle and do its upgrades. Right. So I titled this presentation, this is my own personal title for it, the Activity Picker Upgrade. Which is to say, I don't think other people wouldn't call it that at all, because there's so many features. But I mention this because that's the one thing the teachers see. If you're a teacher, you get, even if your course is created for you, you'll go in there and you add things. You add a label, you add a for, and you add a quiz, what have you. And this that I've got on the screen at the moment is the old activity chooser. And if you were to scroll down, you'd see at the top here it says activities, and underneath it says resources. And it's okay, it's fine. But we had a lot of feedback, and I say we because I'm very proud to say that a couple of people from Titus were involved, who had some input into the design of what I'm about to show you. That's the company co-founder Mike, and one of our other developers were at a developers conference, and they had some input into what is the new activity chooser. So I'm going to scroll backwards between those two screens so you can see and compare them. You can see there is the activity chooser. It was just a list of options. That was it. When you moved up and down, it showed you a bit of text to describe what they did, but that was it. Whereas the new one, as you can see, we've got some tabs and we've got a search option, and we've also got little stars on there, and I'm going to explain what those stars mean. So it starts off and it shows you all, or you can choose to see activities or resources. Now, with the old one, sometimes people they're not absolutely sure, what is an activity and what is a resource. So by default, you just get everything. So this is the new activity chooser. Now, this sort of the headline feature of this new thing is what I think of as activity starring, but I think possibly taken from the world of social media. People like the idea of favorites. Now, the reason this was developed is it's all about one of the aims of this version of Moodle, this upgrade, is to improve usability, and that's another obsessive thing in my head. And I also know that the next version of Moodle, which is about a year away, they also are going to focus. They're going to work hard on usability. And the thing about ease of use is it's hard to create. So the idea is that most people do the same thing over and over again. You know that. And I've got a thing about quizzes. I love Moodle's quiz engine, and my pitch about it, I say to people, I say, the Moodle quiz engine is the most powerful quiz engine available anywhere, free or paid for. And I'll argue anybody about that. So when I'm working with Moodle, I'm constantly creating quizzes. So when I get my activity picker up, it makes sense that the quiz is right up there. And you can see on this screenshot here that I have selected H5P, which I'm going to talk about quite extensively, quiz, and the URL option there. So I can see gathered together the things that I use most frequently. Also, there's another feature. So that is for the individual teacher. That will be remembered for me. Every time I log in, I see my favorites. But there's another recommended thing here. And you can see here, this is the tab, and it says assignment and book. This is at a system level. In other words, the admins or the management who tell the admins what to do can recommend certain activities. And they do this in the admin interface. So everybody gets to see this, unlike the favorites, which are the favorites of the individual teachers. And this is set up in the administrative interface by the person who can see everything. And you can see there, I've selected assignment and book as just two recommended items for this. So that's the activity picker, and that's, now I'll stop talking about that now. It is, I think it's a really, really nice new feature, but I'm now going to talk about something which used to be there, went away, and it's then come back again. This is turn editing on. And this, oh, you have to excuse me, I've just made the message thing larger here. Let me just do that. It used to be that the turn editing on option was in the drop down box, and therefore you had to do something in order to see it. And when you're first learning the interface, it was much, in my view, I think it's great to bring it back. Turn editing on is always there on the course. So when you're first new to it, you don't have to click around to find it. And clicking around to find things suggests that, and particularly things that are used frequently, is not a good thing. So that has returned. Now, clients of Titus probably will say, this is I don't recognize why this is happening like this, because we customized our themes so that you had a different way of turning editing on. And what you're seeing on the screen at the moment, this is the default boost theme, and I'm going to show you in a little bit an actual live website of ours, when I'll show you using both this default interface, which is the boost theme, and if you're not familiar with themes, that's like a skin, so that you've got the same content underneath it, but it changes the look and feel and the icons and what have you. So this is a return of the turn editing on button, which is a good thing. So now I'm going to move on to H5P and the new H5P features that are in this release. And I've got a strong suspicion that most of the people watching today will know about H5P, but just to be certain, I'll talk about what it is a little bit. Now, H5P is a separate project to Moodle, but Moodle 3.9 represents a very, very tight integration of H5P into Moodle. In fact, you can do an installation of Moodle and start using H5P without any installing any other plugins. It actually downloads some content from the H5P site in order to work, but you don't have to install any other software. And I looked at this just before this presentation started. I was saying to Callum, oh, it's been in for years, you know, H5P has been around for years. So I looked it up, and I saw the year 2015 that H5P has been around. And I think, and I've been following Moodle, say, since 2003, I think that the H5P plugin is the most exciting plugin in the history of Moodle. And I think my own plugins are really exciting, but this is even more exciting. And two of the reasons for that are really easy to use. Okay, that's always nice. If things are hard to use, people don't use them, simple as that. And the other is they're pretty. They create visually attractive activities, and people are attracted to visually attractive things. So it's why I'm so popular. So the screenshots you can see here are little thumbnails of each of the activities. And there's at least one here that I didn't know anything about until I took the screenshot. So on the top left there, it says, create a sequence of images that gradually, and I haven't even investigated what gradually is, but you can see here, the fact it's a sequence of images that gradually do something. This is not about something pedagogically, I can never say that word, educationally difficult. It's not about interrogating the students. This is about things looking good, but it does there's a lot of educationally useful things in there, such as you can see there's a find the hotspots. you've got image hotspots, you've got image pairing, you've got a huge number of different activities. So Moodle 3.9 represents the tight integration of H5P into off-the-shelf core Moodle. And the most obvious way that you can see that is whenever you open up the editor on any activity, there it is, H5P stylized button in the Atto editor. You click that and you can start to create or insert H5P activities. I think someone's asking a question there. Can we see back the webinar and share? It is being recorded, by the way. So the new H5P features, the big one is Content Bank. And if I was in control of everything in the world, I would think of calling this H5P Content Bank, because at the moment it purely is about H5P, but I'm not in charge of the world, sadly. So this is, you'll see this in the gutter there, and that the thing that opens and closes there. You see you've got a new thing called the Content Bank. And if you go to the Content Bank, you'll see you have the ability to add H5P related content. And perhaps this is a good moment for me to stop and stop the slideshow and start showing you actually on the live site. So just if I can hit the escape button and go to one of our live sites, so you can, rather than just screenshots, actually see the live site. So here we go. I'm just hitting the escape button here. I'm going to this course here. Here we go. So this is a Titus Learning publicly visible website. I've created a course for this presentation called T39 demo. And I have here sorry, I'm pressing things here that I shouldn't be pressing. I've got an H5P activity called interactive video. And I love this activity, and I love this activity because I've never seen this capability in any other tool, and it seems intuitively really useful. My apologies for people who are already massive H5P fans and know about this, but if you don't, this is like, I'll have it just for that feature. It's a killer feature. So what you have here is, this is a Titus little video, and it goes on for 1 minute and 9 seconds. Don't worry, we won't show the whole thing, but I'm just gonna, I'll just for full effect, I'll see if I can make this full screen. I'm not sure it's gonna work. We'll try it anyway. So yeah, so I hope that it's visible as full screen there. I'm now going to press the standard YouTube button, and the video will start. Blah blah blah. Here we go. Here we go. It's going to say this is the kind of things that we at Titus do: content creation, reskilling, all these lovely, lovely things. And but wait, the video has stopped, and it's got an indicator there to click on it, and it asks the question, what comes next? What product will be mentioned next? I wonder, will it be typewriter, pencil, or Moodle? I think it will be Moodle. Let's click Moodle and see what happens. Yes, correct. Slight pause, nice animation. Remember me saying that it produces a visually engaging content. Click the continue button, and off it goes. Now, and that'll disappear in a second. Come on, you disappear in a second. So that is the H5P interactive video content. Now, I'm not going to go and demonstrate the creation of this in front of you here now, but it's really, really easy. You don't have to be any kind of a computer person, and I could teach anybody to do that in under an hour. Okay, so that's a, you know, it's a really, really nice feature. That's not a new feature in Moodle 3.9, but it's such an exciting feature of H5P, it's worth demonstrating. So let me go back to the, oh yes, the other thing is that I'll show you the activity picker. We go here. Okay, so that's the activity picker. And you can see that it divides, by default, it divides into activities and resources. And people were saying with the old version of it, they're saying, well, I don't know what is an activity and what is a resource. And so by default, you see everything, but if you do know the difference or you feel that's important, you can click those tabs. And as I was saying that if you've got some favorites, so if you have a look there, you see I've got 3 tabs at the moment. We've got all activities and resources, but H5P, there's my favorite. Click on that. We've got a new tab, contains that. Let's go back into here. As I said previously, I am a massive fan of quiz. I want to start the quiz. Let's go back to the top here, start. And there you go. So these are my favorites in the activity picker. And that will remember that next time I log in, that's what will show up for me as a teacher. This is, of course, from a teacher's perspective. And I showed the screenshot a minute ago of the content bank here. And you can see here, there's a list of all the, it's such a long list of, look, Twitter user feed. That'd be handy, wouldn't it? 360 degrees virtual tour. That's kind of, visually engaging kind of thing. True, false question. That's not so exciting, but of course, the way they present it looks really, really nice. So this is the new thing about sharing your content so this is called the content bank. Oh, I'm not going to show this today, but the thing that I have here there says that's IntelliCart. That is a third-party paid-for tool that we install on quite a lot of our client sites. So, for example, if you wanted to track closely the use of your H5P or other activities, we can create custom reports using IntelliCart. I've got a strong background in creating queries using a thing called ad hoc query for extracting data from Moodle, and it's great. That's a free reporting tool, SQL reporting tool. But the nice thing about IntelliCart is that it comes pre-configured with a wide range of reports, and they look great, and we can create custom ones. So that's so let me go back to the actual course here. Right, let me scroll down, wait for it to refresh. Oh, by the way, that is putting the output on the body of the course. Normally you wouldn't do that. I was doing that to sort of, make it look pretty or something when you first went into the course. And I've done that here with this is like a quiz here. It says, click the verbs in the following text. The cat sat on the mat. Sat is a verb, a doing word. And I'm now going to say that moon is a doing word, which it isn't. I just thought of a context where it could be, but that's a different story. And now I'm going to press check here. And you can see that it's come up with this, it's responded straight away. But more typically and more like core activities is that you click on something and then it shows you the output. So that's a drag and drop exercise there. Okay, I actually, some of these exercises were borrowed from the Mount Orange School site at Moodle HQ, which is a great place to explore things that you can do with Moodle. Right, so now let me go back to my slideshow. If I can remember where I was, let's go present, and I'm hoping it remembers what it was. Yes, there we go. So that's back to this new content bank. Okay. Now, I just showed you the kind of feedback you get from H5P, and I've got this slideshow here because this is the feedback you get from, this is one of the core Moodle question types. And there are really good reasons for using the core question type, specifically on high stakes exams, and this is absolutely fine. But if you see here, visually appealing, this is all, this little +1 and the little box where it's just set up. I love it. Right. One of the additional things it's supplying, and this is one of the reasons some people might call this the H5P integration release, is that H5P now puts well, you can see from the screenshot here, I'll read it out. It says, some H5P provide attempt tracking data, advanced reporting, such as number of attempts, responses, and grades. So it writes to the grade book, and some don't. So for example, I was mentioning there the idea of that fading image. You don't really need any grading capability in that. But that's a new feature, is that so you've got attempts and writing to the grade book. So I'll move on from H5P, exciting though it is. Otherwise, I could talk about it. It's not actually my area of expertise. It's more my area of excitement because it's got so many activities and it's so visually appealing. Whereas my real focus is the quiz. So I'm going to move on from that. And now I'm going to talk about something that's really relevant for this time of global pandemic and students not being able to go into exam rooms. And that is safe browser integration. Now, this is the concept of creating a secure workstation where students can't open a new tab and search on a search engine for answers. Okay, it does require the students download and configure a different sort of browser, so you want to give them plenty of notice before the exam for this. It's specifically for use with a quiz, okay? And one of the other exciting things about this project for me is that this was funded and created as a result of a collaboration between several European universities. I think some of them are the German-speaking universities. And this goes to show the great benefits of open source tools in that people can contribute, and then there's this ecosystem going on in that you've got commercial organizations like Titus, you've got universities and collaborating to make the whole experience better. So this safe browser integration, specifically for use with quiz, you can't be proof. Sometimes people will want to work around your rules, people have mobile phones, what have you, but this is an excellent way of turning an ordinary computer into a much more secure workstation. I'm now going to move on to performance. The two areas, I've got two slides about this. And the first one I'm going to show you is partly because this is my area of excitement. And really, this is about very big installations. And there are some massive installations of Moodle around the world, and Titus has some really big sites. The idea of this is that one of the performance bottlenecks with any website is reading and writing to the database. But now with 3.9, you can configure it with two databases, one that reads the data and the other that writes it, and then they synchronize in the background, okay? And if you think that the Moodle, the database read writing is a significant performance bottleneck, the ability to split it across two machines offers a possibility of really significant performance increases. That particular performance enhancement isn't probably going to be of interest to anybody unless you've got a really big site, but there are a whole raft of smaller enhancements to performance that will benefit just about anybody. So you see that first one there. Those numbers down the side, by the way, those are the issue tracking tickets. This is when you're following changes to Moodle, you get given a number. And you can see we've got improved theme designer mode performance for people who are creating custom themes, which I'm going to talk about a little bit in the near future. Yeah.
Just to jump in there right quick, there's a few people who've just been asking the chat, when you mentioned before about very big sites, what would you define as a very big site?
That's a really good, well, I came very close to mentioning a number there, but it's a very old number, and many years ago, there was, when I say many, I mean 3-5 years ago, there wasn't a Titus site, but there was a site in the Middle East of 2 million users, and I know there's much bigger sites than that since. Titus, I think our biggest site at the moment is probably 100,000 users. So when I say big, I'm talking high numbers of tens of thousands up to the many millions. And I know that there are sites out there with many millions. Now, I follow the issue of performance and numbers very closely, because there's a very standard question people will ask. They'll say, what hardware do I need for 30,000 users? And the answer you can get to that can be really frustrating, and it tends to be, it depends. And the thing it depends on is that if you've got 30,000 users and they log on a Monday at exactly 9 o'clock to take the same quiz, you're probably going to have a problem. But that's an exceptional situation. If you have, say, 5,000 people taking a quiz first thing on a Monday morning, and you can stagger when they log in so that they log in over the space of, say, 2 minutes, suddenly the amount of the hardware you need drops dramatically. So when I talk very large sites, I'm talking tens of thousands to millions. Now, does that give people an idea of what I mean when I say, I'm just going to have a bit of a pause here because I've been talking constantly and I really should have been following the feedback. Oh, I see, I've got to scroll all the way down.
Yeah, there's a few, one answer just come in saying, yeah, so I think that does give.
Yeah, that's good. That's a very good question. Yeah, I should have said that. I was almost going to mention this 2 million site, but it's so long ago that, and I follow the people who maintain that, and they're real experts. It's not something you want to do yourself. And if you're thinking of having 100,000 users, then you need to get people who do this just for a living. It's not something. But if you're a few thousand, yeah, maybe, but by the time you get to 100,000, it's a special thing. Somebody else is asking a question, database size. And again, that is one of those piece of string questions, but the database size is rarely the problem. 4 years ago, I could fit the database, a backup of the database of a whole university zipped up on one stick. The issue is your files. And the issue tends to be multimedia files. So, for example, if you've got an arts department, creative arts, and students are producing multi-gigabyte videos and uploading them, then you can run out of disk space quickly. So, or managing your disk space is going to be, it's not running out of it because disk space is relatively affordable, it's managing it. So the issue tends not to be the database size, but it tends to be the file size. Having said that, Moodle does some very clever things with its file storing. So if you have multiple instances of the same file, it uses some mathematical hashing system whereby it only ever gets stored once. So that's kind of useful. But the issue tends to be big files. And I'm really interested in quizzing, and file size is not a big deal. If you're running a photography course or a video making course, then you need to think very carefully about where files get written to, and maybe they don't get uploaded to your Moodle file system, and maybe you handle them in a different way. I'm just somebody's getting a 404 error, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, the reason I brushed over the secure browsing of the quizzes is that that's not my area of expertise. I know all about quiz, but I don't know a lot about the secure browser. I followed its development very closely because I know the people who work on it, but I can't talk with any sense of authority on it, and that's why. Sorry, that's a bit of a disappointment really when I've said that quiz is my area of expertise, but I'm just going to scroll back up a little bit. Good question. Yeah, I'm presuming. Yeah, there's a good question. It says, is there any place for improving performance for large sites? As I say, this is something I follow very closely. And one of the areas, really important areas for performance is caching. And there are products like Redis, it's a free product, and optimization of that. Of course, there are things such as optimizing how your PHP is set up, inevitably. It is there is a lot of documentation in the Moodle org wiki. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Yes, there are lots of guides, but the most important thing is, I'll explain what I'm answering there. Somebody's saying that they're starting to come to Moodle and they've got to learn it in a short amount of time. What are the guides? Because it's a product that gets released, there's a new version every 6 months, it's hard to have a single place for documentation. But the Moodle org discussion forums are the place to go, particularly if you're looking to make sure your performance is getting all the performance you can. And one of the key things to this is that, and a lot of people don't like to do this, is ask questions. As long as you give lots and lots of details, there are some very, very clever people from around the world, people from universities who live for this. If you ask them a question and you give all the information you possibly can, you can get responses from people who've actually written the code. That's another good question. I like this. This is great. Somebody's asking, how do you make sure that people don't see things you don't want them to see? The Moodle, in order to see a course, you need to be enrolled on a course. You need to set it up to enroll on a course. And as long as you don't have guest access enabled, which generally you don't want, people can only see the contents of courses on which they are enrolled. Okay. I don't know, it says that, is it possible to select multiple files for attaching to the assignment activity? I constantly use the assignment activity because I develop plugins for it, but I don't know the answer to that question. Right, yeah, that's another great question. Is there any Google Meet, Zoom, or any similar video conferencing tool for this version? Please, if there is, mention it to us. That's a really, really good question. There's two parts to that question. There is a really, really good product called Big Blue Button, okay? And that is that's specifically aimed at education. Unlike general tools like Zoom and Microsoft Meetings, that is aimed at the education market, and it's tightly integrated with Moodle. And you can explore its use. If you get if you go to Moodle.org and look up Moodle Cloud, you can get a free Moodle installation. In some ways it's slightly limited, you can't put plugins, but that comes with a limited Big Blue Button account on it, and you can get to experiment with it. Now, one of the things with Big Blue Button is that if you want to have it unlimited, you have to install and maintain it yourself, and for that reason, you really know what you need to know what you're doing to maintain it yourself, or you can pay the people from Big Blue Button to give you an installation of that, and then it's going to cost you some money. But that, if you would ask me what is the best integrated audio video chat system, the answer is Big Blue Button. But unless you are willing to put the time and effort into it, you probably need to pay for the service too. But it is completely free as long as you can put the time and effort into installing and maintaining it. Okay. How do I set the quiz questions to appear on a given time later? In the setting for quiz, there's options to say when the quiz is available and when it's open, when it's closed, and that's really commonly used in exams because you don't want the students to see the questions before it starts and it closed. Yeah. Sorry, let me just finish. I'm almost at the end of my slides here. I will continue answering the questions in a second. So yeah, lots of performance improvements. And one of the final one there, it says, tune the Redis session handler to reduce block and waiting times. Again, that's a specialist caching thing and quite typical of kind of things people do for performance improvement. Right, that's it. That's my slide content there. Somebody's asked, how can we use Quality Matters in Moodle? And I can't answer that because I don't know what Quality Matters is. I used to support the Turnitin, but I can't remember. That sounds more like a...
Right, Marcus, should I...
yeah.
Questions that came in a little bit earlier. Shall I just...
Yeah, please give them to me, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So first question came from a person called Jason, and he said, I was wondering how to get the data about how many students interact with H5P.
I'm not... Yeah, this version now supports writing to the grade book. So that's one way of doing it. I'm not aware of any, there's no built-in reporting to my knowledge, but it would be very possible to create reports on the number of people who have interacted with it. And the two tools you could use for that is the ad hoc reports, or the thing that, which is what I've used in the past, or we, as I say, we resell the IntelliBoard reporting tool, and custom reports can be made in that for reporting on what people do with activities such as H5P.
Awesome, thank you. And the next one was from an Ashan, and he says, can we create groups of users, 10 to 15 users, and assign a manager to that group? I think that might be a workplace thing, but
yes, yeah. Moodle works on the assumption that all teachers can do everything they want on a course they are enrolled in, because the primary idea of Moodle is it's to make life easy for teachers and for students. There is another product, which is a hosted commercial product called Moodle for Workplace, which is designed for commercial organizations with a management structure, and you can do that kind of thing with it. Having said that, you can divide students into what are called cohorts, and you can simply allocate teachers to those cohorts, tell them that they're responsible for those cohorts. So for example, I used to do this when I was a teacher. I would be or cohorts and groups, I would go into a lesson and they'd take a quiz, and then I want to see just the students' responses that are sitting in the classroom with me there and then. So I'd select that group and it would just show me those students. I'm not sure that's exactly what you're looking for, but I hope it was anyway. Go on, Callum.
The next one was from a person called Marcy, and they've asked, we are on 3.8 and have the H5P plugin installed. What happens to the plugin when we upgrade to 3.9 now that it's integrated?
It's still there, but I strongly recommend experimenting with 3.9 to see the differences. The big difference is the content bank, and you don't have to install anything. You can go to the Moodle.org demo site and experiment with it there to see what the differences are. You're not going to lose anything in terms. You can carry on using the current installation of H5P.
Awesome. And the next one was from Shahed, and they've asked, will H5P be free if you use it through Moodle? Because H5P is not free, an open source product.
I've never seen anywhere that H5P has asked me to pay any money for anything. And yes, it will continue to be free within Moodle. H5P does have an option on it which sort of does some telemetry and sends some data back to h5p.org. And if you want h5p.com or .org to host your content, then they ask you to pay for that. But I've never come across a thing that asks me to, please enter your credit card details here. If that's not correct, whoever asked that question, post in the message.
Okay, awesome. And the next one was from a person called Honora. I think I know Honora. And she's asked, are grades results from H5P activities saved in the gradebook? Can teachers see students' responses or attempts?
What an excellent question. One moment. Am I still sharing?
You are, yeah.
Okay, a minute. How do I... oh, it's so annoying. A minute, I'll do it. Okay. That's not it. Let me have a look. Let's have a look. Okay. Now, remember a second ago it said cutlery, drag, drop. I've actually had that up on screen. You can see here that the marker screen knew what a knife and fork and spoon was, but student 1 didn't. So I think that, yeah, it gets written to the grade book now, and I think that's a 3.9 new version. Does that answer your question, whoever asked that? I tried to set that up with the old version of H5P so I could show without it, but why would I install the old version? All right.
Right, so we've got
go on, yeah.
We've got quite a few questions to ravel through. Next one's from Katie, and she's asked, what's the difference between H5P and H5P interactive content being two independent buttons?
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I did know. It seems to add confusion would be my answer to that. Sorry, that's not a very helpful answer. And somebody's just said here, h5p.com is a paid version, seems to add admin management tools, reporting and enhanced gradebook integration options. Yeah, that'd be my understanding of it, yeah. And as I can seem to get most of that stuff out of running it within Moodle, it's not something that's troubled me at all. So yeah, there are opportunities to pay the people at H5P, which is probably worth it because they're doing an amazing job, but I have never had a pressing need for anything that's I've had to pay for. Go on, Callum.
The next one is from Irashini, and they've asked, the content bank only has the H5P content created in the specific course, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Next.
Yeah, I find that, but I find that really odd. I looked into that. I thought, well, maybe it's going to be global, but it seems to be just like in the question bank. With the question bank, you can actually create things at site level. But I found that really surprising. Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Next one is from Saralta, and they've asked, can we share our H5P content bank with our colleagues?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, you can share the actual .h5p, but I'm sure that's not what they meant. No, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer.
No problem. Next one is from Steve, and he said, my students write web pages. Is there a location where they can upload their HTML folders, pictures, and code files so that other students can one click to see the website for each student? No download, just play.
There's almost certainly places where you can upload them. And I seem to remember going through this when I was a teacher, which was 4 years ago. But when you come to download stuff, unless they've created in a specific way that doesn't depend on where the home item is, it probably isn't going to display very nicely. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. So yes, you can upload them, but what they look like when they download, and I can't even tell you off the top of my head where you would, but there's multiple tools that would allow you to upload stuff, but when they download it, it's not going to look right.
Awesome. The next one is from Anand, and they've asked, are there any page builders available for Moodle similar to Elementor for WordPress?
I think the answer to that's no.
Right. Next one is a person called Vivian, and they've asked, how do you use Moodle to design a questionnaire?
Yeah, we do a lot of that. What frustrates me is there's more than one thing called questionnaire. One of them isn't a questionnaire at all. Is the questionnaire that follows this, Callum, is that in Moodle?
No, that's we've done that on our website.
All right. There is a third-party tool, and I even know the name of the man who created it. It's created by a man called Mike Churchward, and that's really powerful, but it's a third-party tool. I think it might be in Moodle Cloud. So you can create, there's a tool that's built into Moodle that offers you questions. I don't know, it's very obscure questions, but the third-party tool, questionnaire from Mike Churchward, that'll do everything you'd want if you can install stuff.
Awesome. And I'll move over now to the question section on Zoom call. And the first,
okay, yeah.
Will the H5P integration also be in Moodle Cloud?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. H5P has been in Moodle Cloud from the word go, and whenever I've got my own a Moodle Cloud installed purely to track these things. I can't remember whether or not they've upgraded that to 3.9, but if it isn't, it will be any second, any day, and it will include the H5P integration, definitely.
Awesome. Next one's a bit of a lengthy one, but I'll read it out. Has the question bank for Moodle been improved when using random questions from shared categories? We have a big issue on our Moodle site where every time you back up and restore courses with shared categories, it creates an unlimited amount of interactions, and therefore you get a point where you can't even restore these backups anymore.
Yeah, I've seen that discussed. People are aware of it. When I say people, I mean Tim Hunt, who's one of the main architects of it, but I'm not aware of a fix for that in this current release, but I could be wrong. So yeah, I know about it, but I don't know the status of the fix. It's good. Yeah, it's good. I personally, I create quite what I think of large question banks, 500, 600, 700 questions in there. So it's an area of great interest to me, but I don't have an answer at the moment.
Okay, so personal Vivian's asked for, I suppose, what's the best guide for using this Moodle? Using Moodle, what's the best area for resources?
Moodle.org. It's because it's alive. That's in some ways that doesn't seem like a good answer because that's a website with a discussion forum. But it's very searchable, and you've got experts who are there. So classic thing is that somebody was asking that same question about the question bank, and I know that the person answering it will be the person that writes the codes that fix it. Somebody who works for one of the UK universities. So yeah, Moodle.org, and it would be nice if there was a book that came out every 6 months. Well, you know, if you like books, but there isn't. Moodle.org, and it's got a wiki there, which is updatable by end users. But that's the best source of the most up-to-date information when you're trying to learn to use.
Awesome. And a person called Alexia's asked an area where they can get more information on safe browser integration.
I don't know. I know the people who worked on it. I know the name of the man, Luca, who's at one of the German universities, but I can't give you an answer to that. Sorry, I've got a strange, skewed version of this. I know about its development, but I don't know the details. I don't know, sorry.
Next person's asked, how do we manage students' accounts after they finish a class or graduate from school? For example, they will become an inactive user or a suspended user. How do we solve that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's an extra good question because it's worthwhile knowing that when you unenroll a student from a course, if you were to then re-enroll them, all our old data would still be there. So, and when you delete a user, it's what they call a soft delete. So it's simply marked as delete. And I don't have an off the top of my head answer to that, but there are a lot of answers because there's a lot of people using it.
Next question's asked, how to generate statistical reports in Moodle 3.9.
Well, let me talk about reporting and statistics in general. Somebody was asking earlier on about statistics. One of the key things about making sure statistics is working is that your cron is working, and the cron is the heartbeat of Moodle, of the operating system, that will, as long as that's working, it will trigger the various events, such as making sure that your statistics are up to date. And there are some things in Moodle that are absolutely dependent on the cron running, and you can look at something, you go, this is really, really old data, and then you can manually run the cron. You can manually run cron events, and then it'll come up to date. But in terms of, how can you get nice reports from it? There isn't a simple answer. I spent a lot of my life over 3 years at York St John University creating custom reports, and there are commercial products such as IntelliBoard that I was mentioning previously, and that comes with built-in reporting. The thing about the ad hoc queries, which is what I spent a lot of time creating, there are a lot of shared resources for that on Moodle.org, but you need to be comfortable with copying and pasting SQL and tweaking it to your own purposes. So I'll give you an example. At one point, I wanted to know how many people had logged into our Moodle in the last 24 hours. And I created, and it took me less than half a day, I created a report that sent me an email that just summarized, it said in the last 24 hours, you've had 6,000 people have logged in. So if you've got somebody, if you can employ somebody or you have the expertise on doing that, there are the tools there to do it, but you need the expertise with SQL in order to create those reports. But you can base them on a huge bank of existing stuff, or you can go with a commercial product like IntelliBoard that has that kind of stuff built into it with a lot of very nice looking graphs.
So Leona's asked the next question, and they've asked, could Moodle be used for customized training courses? I might answer that one and say that it most definitely can. We, as a company, a large chunk of the organisations that we work with use Moodle specifically just for that. So an example off the top of my head would be the British Weightlifting. They provide training programs which they supply through Moodle using some plugins like IntelliCart. All their training options, people can purchase it through the Moodle and access the content through there. So I'll send you a message actually, Leona, after this to speak perhaps a little bit further about that point.
Now, I've just done something sort of in response to what Callum said, in that the thing that I was demonstrating is Moodle as you would see it if you download it and install it. This is plain vanilla Moodle. But most people want it branded for their own school, college or organisation. And the reason I showed it as plain, because that's what you would see. But what you can see now, am I sharing my screen, Callum? Yes, I am. It says stop share, so I must be sharing. So this is our Moodle Titus theme. And you can see here, and one of the things I really like about this, let me see if I can do it. I claim I didn't create this, but I just like think you get different icons for everything. You see there are different icons. And you get different icons over here. So this is the idea of theming. And the thing that I did, so I just kind of switched from one to the other, is that's what it looks like with our Titus theme. That's what it looks like default out of the box. And it's also got some other cunning things, is that imagine you've got different departments or different courses. You can set up the, each course or groups of courses can have their own themes with a different look and feel. And you can see that it really does radically change how it looks. This is the boost theme, so we've got that over here. Whereas if most people wouldn't change it through the menu like I'm doing here. That's just a very shortcut way of doing it. And you can turn this off. I've set this up to this. So I'm going to say theme Titus. You know, if I knew if I had any other themes here, I would have it in there. And you can see that we've got this different, whole different look and feel there. Let me bring up the chat window again so I can. We've got Q&A chat. Go on. I'm double clicking so I can see what people are saying. Except it's.
So the next question is from Dylan, and he's asked, do you know any free plugins which can optimize media upon upload? We have a few users who use iPads, which take HD video and eats up a lot of space.
Yeah, I've heard of such a thing, but I can't point you to such a thing. But on a related note, if Apple is important to Apple, obviously important to everybody, one of the slight limitations of recording into the browser, it's a great feature in Moodle in that into the Atto browser you can click and you get recording. That's fantastic, and audio, and you play it back and you're happy and it's terrific until somebody with an Apple device tries to use it. There are at least 2 plugins that will run in the background to convert WebM into MP3. But I'm not aware of anything that will convert video format. So yeah, okay.
Next question is, I'm not entirely sure how to ask this, but I think it's more of a general point about the future of e-learning. So I suppose, how do you see it progressing? And a more specific question on how you can verify that no one's cheating.
I love that question. I love that question. I was in touch with well, okay, let me give you the short answer. Throughout the history of learning, people have always cheated and will always cheat, and that's always going to happen. That's just human nature. But I'll give you, my area of interest is quizzes, and I've taken a lot of commercial like programming quizzes. And one of the things I know, and I knew that other people were cheating on these exams, and one of the ways they cheated, and it seems bizarre, was to memorize the answers to questions. And the way to prevent that is to create so many questions that you really can't memorize the answers to all of the questions. That's one approach to it. The other area of contention is plagiarism. In other words, people copy and pasting off other websites. My own experience of that, and this is a deeply unsatisfactory answer, is if you know your students well, you'll know when they're cheating. But sometimes you can't know all your students well, and there are plagiarism services. And the nice thing is there's quite a few to choose from, and Moodle has an anti-plagiarism API built into it. So the people who provide these services can tightly integrate into Moodle. And the famous market-leading one, there's a thing called Turnitin. There's another one called Erformance, and I can't remember the name of the one I was most recently using, which was actually really good. I know that they've got some of their offices based in Ukraine, and I've just spoken to them about getting a test account. Sorry, but if anybody is interested, I was very impressed with the service that they offer. But yeah, plagiarism. But people will always cheat, sadly. People will always want something for nothing. Well, something for nothing, we'll give you Moodle. We won't charge you for the source code for that. We will charge for our services there.
Funnily enough, the next question was about specifically Turnitin, and it says how to download or export breakdown marks of Turnitin assignment that is using Rubric.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very familiar with rubrics as in the Moodle assignments, but it's 4 years since I looked at anything to do with Turnitin, and I can't remember any of the details. Somebody's asked about presenting Microsoft PowerPoint in Moodle, and I don't know is the answer to that, which is unsatisfactory, but I don't know.
Next week.
Somebody's asked the front page of the demo site, which will include the URL. Let me see if I can get hold of that. I'm like everybody else. It's I say I'll log out so you can see what it looks like when I'm logged out. I'll log in again for a minute. That's me, and my name is Marcus Green. You can see that this is different here because it's our theme. I'm going to log out, and there you go. That's the front page, and you can see that this is sort of been customized with all these little bits down here. I'm not logged in. And then I'm going to log in as me again. Let me look through the questions again, so let's see if I've missed anything.
Yeah, which
yeah, go on. Yeah, sorry, Callum.
A couple of these together, and they're asking a bit more about the upgrades. So somebody said, can we migrate our courses safely from version 3.4 to 3.9?
Yeah, I believe the answer to that is yes. Many years ago, many versions of Moodle ago, the process of upgrading from one to another would be exciting and not in a good way. But for the last several years, it's been really quite smooth. Having said that, my advice would be, do test your upgrades first. You know, to test them on a copy everything onto another machine and test it just to be certain, because for most people you're absolutely dependent on it and you don't want anything to go wrong. But it's become very, very smooth in the last well, really the last 4 to 5, 6 years, because I remember in around about 2013, that's when I joined this university, and they had a difficult experience just before I joined, and as soon as I joined it all went smoothly. And I tried to claim that was because I'm so very, very clever, but in fact it was that the upgrades simply had become smoother. So I think that should be straightforward. Having said that, you really should do your upgrades quite frequently. Don't leave many versions, don't leave it years, because it can become more difficult. I upgraded a 1.9 to 2.7 site a couple of years ago, and it worked, but I wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, so that's the question. Is it easy to upgrade 3.4 to 3.9? The big thing there is to make sure all your plugins work. Actually, that's probably, you know, if you've got half a dozen or more plugins, that's the thing you need to check.
Right.
Okay, somebody's asked, does H5P support video, quiz, or assignment? Well, I can't answer about assignment, but you've seen the interactive video thing there, which I absolutely love. I think it's brilliant. And you can get through to me at Titus Learning. My name is marcus.green@tituslearning.com. What else have you seen, Callum?
Yeah, so we're running on 1 hour, 5 minutes now, so I'll just pick out a few more questions here. I think we'll have to call it at that point. The next one is just about, is there any method available for backup theme settings?
Oh, there is. Backup theme settings.
Yeah.
I can't remember its name, and I also forget its name. There's a plugin. I'm sorry about this, so you have to search for it. But there's this plugin, and I think it installs as a tool, and it will allow you to back up the settings for any plugin. And that's brilliant. I don't know what it should be in core Moodle. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm not going to waste everybody's time for searching on it now. If you email me after this, marcus.green@tituslearning.com, I will do another search for it. It's not pretty, but it does that. Brilliant. That's my answer.
Right, the last two. Arjit asked, what are the best proctoring tools or practice you would suggest? Any advice in general on proctoring?
Somebody gave me advice. I can't remember its name the other day. I know nothing of proctoring tools, but if you email me, I will send you back. Small, that's what it's something called SMOWL, I think. That's what was recommended to me by somebody who does know about these things. I've never used it. Well, actually, I did. I logged on to that person's site with it literally for 2 minutes. SMOWL, he recommended Small combined with the browser thing I was showing earlier on. I know this is a big issue at the moment when you can't have students in a classroom, but yeah, I think it's called, and yeah, it's a responder. Somebody's, yeah, they're all subscription. All these things will cost you some money, but yeah, responders is one I've heard of. There you go. Yeah, from Paul. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, small.net.en. Somebody who's really expert recommended that to me the other day, and I very briefly logged in, but it's not my area of expertise.
Right, Dylan's asked, can we download all students' work to a zipped folder at the end of the year without going into individual courses or assignments?
No, that'd be nice. People have asked for it regularly. As far as I'm aware at the moment, that is not a possibility. I think it'd be a really nice thing. It'd be really nice, except, of course, how could you download their quiz results? There are some things that'd be awkward to download in any kind of usable way, but I can of course see that you might want to download all of their assignment attempts in the various formats, but I'm not aware of any. My answer shouldn't be no there. It should be, I am not aware of any such way of doing that, and I do spend a lot of time following these things.
Right, and this brings us to our last question, which is how can we make group private chats using the forum or other plugins? For example, one student posts a chat visible only to a group, not all the students.
I don't know. I've actually done a lot of programming with a messaging subsystem in the last few months, but I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that question.
Right, that brings us to the end to the Q&A questions, and I think we've now picked up all the questions from the chat, so I think it's a good point to end it there.
Thank you very much.
Like I said, massive thank you, Marcus, for presenting that. It was fantastic, and thank you everyone for joining. As mentioned, there'll be a little questionnaire that pops up at the end of this. We'd really appreciate if anyone could fill this in, and if you'd like to chat to us a little bit further about our services, our contact details will be there also. But thank you very much, and we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.